Hey guys, what's up? JoZ back here again with another Vikings video. And over the last couple of days, one of the big news topics in the NFL has been what if Jeremy Maclin and Eric Decker are available. Of course, Jeremy Maclin got released by the Chiefs, so he is available now, and there's been talks of Eric Decker trading. So, which one of these would make the most sense on the Vikings, and would the Vikings would be likely to pursue any of these? So let's start off with Jeremy Maclin, the one that'd be easiest to acquire. Now, Maclin is a very similar receiver to our number one receiver the Vikings have on the team right now. I'll get to that in a moment. So let's look at his best season to see what his max potential could possibly be on the 29-year-old wide receiver. In 2014, his last year with the Eagles, he had 16 games where he had 85 receptions, he had 1,300 yards, 10 touchdowns. So that the Vikings, we know it well, we know we really want is a big-bodied receiver that can catch touchdowns. Now Maclin at 6 foot, 198 pounds isn't exactly a big body, but he can get touchdowns. Kind of like Antonio Brown, but not nearly as the level as the great Antonio Brown. So, would this guy be enough to be on the team? Well, in 2016, he only had 2 touchdowns. In 2015, he has 8 touchdowns. So, you're thinking maybe right around 5 touchdowns if he was with the Vikings, if you take that average of his last 2 seasons, but you'd hope for maybe closer to 10, but that's what you gotta do. You cheat out with the last couple of years and maybe about an average in there. Now, where would he be on the Vikings? I think the Vikings are very well set with having Stefon Diggs as number 1. I think they'd be okay with maybe sliding Adam Thielen down the depth chart, but that would leave the Vikings with 2 small body, 6-foot receivers on the team. Now, to summarize, I don't think we'll need Jeremy Maclin. I don't think we would want to sign him because we already have Michael Floyd, who's going to be a lot cheaper version, and he's actually younger at 27 years old, and his potential isn't exactly as good as Maclin. Where we're looking at Michael Floyd, we're thinking he could, if he got enough playing time, get us about 800 yards and net us about 5 touchdowns. His best season came in 2013, where he caught 65 passes and got 1,041 yards and got 5 touchdowns. So that's where I kind of got those numbers. So if he was our number 3 or 4 receiver, we could expect in the neighborhood of either a high 700 to a low 800 yard season with about 5 touchdowns, maybe less depending on how much we use him in the red zone. So can Jeremy Maclin beat that out? Yes, but I don't think he benefits the team as much as Michael Floyd is 6'2", 220 pounds, much more than what we need on the wide receivers, as even though Adam Thielen is a little bit bigger than Diggs, he's not going to be able to win many jump balls, as he just doesn't have the height advantage. Now, let's look at Stefon Diggs and Maclin, where I think it's very interesting how similar these 2 wide receivers are. They're both 6 foot. Stefon Diggs is a little bit less. That's going to be the theme of this little discussion. Is Stefon Diggs is just a little bit less than Maclin, almost all the way across the board. Maclin 6 foot 198. Stefon Diggs 6 foot 191, 7 pounds less. Their rookie season, 2015 season for Diggs. He played in 13 games. He got 52 receptions, 720 yards, and 4 touchdowns in that less time. Now, in 15 games for Maclin, he had 56 receptions, 773 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Very, very similar. Maclin only edging Diggs out because he played a little bit more. Stefon Diggs arguably had the better year in his rookie season. Their sophomore season, Diggs was of course injured throughout most of the year, but still very similar. 13 games played, 84 receptions, 903 yards, and slowing down to only 3 touchdowns. Maclin, on the other hand, 16 games, 964 yards, and this is the only time where he actually kind of blows Diggs out of the water, where he gets 10 touchdowns. So the thing that I've always kind of criticized Diggs in as his worst attribute for being a wide receiver is his ability to get touchdowns. Now, this could just be a team scheme thing where you like to run the ball a lot, especially his rookie season, where when we're inside the 20, what are we going to do? We'll hand the ball to 28, as he's more than likely will get us in the end zone or be less stressful than letting our quarterback, Teddy Bridgewater, throw it up and hope it doesn't get picked up in the end zone. I'm not dissing Teddy, but when you got 28 in the backfield, you're going to take him as the more safer bet. Now, so to summarize, I don't think you need Maclin because Diggs is just almost the exact same thing as Maclin, and if you work on catching those touchdowns, I don't think you would need to get Maclin because Diggs is just as good, if not more. I think he has a higher potential at this moment. He's younger, and the Vikings don't need him. The Vikings are in a very interesting position because we want to win now, but we have a lot of young talent, and we want to see where they grow. Next, Eric Decker, the 6'3", 214-pound receiver. He's still under contract with the Jets. He is eligible to opt out of his contract right now. Right now, as in at the end of this year. Yeah, get back to it. But he does have 2 years on his contract at the moment. Now he, on the other hand, has been very good and across the board would be an upgrade for the Vikings. His best year came with Denver in 2013, where he had 1,200 yards on 87 catches and got 11 touchdowns. And in 2015, this one he was with the crappy Jets quarterback, still caught 80 passes for 1,027 yards and 12 touchdowns. So even if you were one of those dumb Bradford or even Teddy haters, the point is he would still bring up good numbers. Get back to it again. Those 2 seasons were really, really good, and he's never struggled as much, but he was hurt the majority of last year. So this is where you'd be taking a gamble. The thing is with Decker, since he was just injured, that might drop his trade value a bit more because the team wouldn't know exactly what they're getting. So that might take him from a 2nd round draft pick you'd have to give him would be something like a 4th, because it just dropped down just a little bit. Now, if you're the Vikings, you can maybe look at your players who might have a 4th round value or something in that caliber. If you're the Vikings, how would you trade for him? I think a trade something like Jarius Wright and a 5th round pick would make a lot of sense. The Vikings really want to get rid of Wright's contract, as he won't factor too much in the Vikings offense this year. And 5th round picks, despite guys like Stephon Diggs playing extremely well in that position, usually don't turn out that great, and the Jets are a rebuilding team, so they would want as many draft picks as possible. And Jarius Wright is still young enough where he can be on the team for a few years, but not too young to where he would be slowed down, as he could be somewhat of a veteran leadership for their young guys. So that'd be an interesting trade, but I just don't think the Vikings would do it because we have Michael Floyd. Now Michael Floyd would be a lot safer as he was signed on an extremely cheap contract. So if the Vikings thought he was too much in the locker room, we could just ditch him right away. Eric Decker would be a lot more expensive when the Vikings have to re-sign guys like Xavier Rhodes very soon. I don't think you're going to want to put a bunch of stock into a guy like Eric Decker. Would Eric Decker be good enough for a rental for maybe the same Jarius Wright in a 5th round pick trade? Now, it's debatable. It's your opinions. If that's enough of a trade to get him, if we could get him at something that cheap, I'd say go for it. But for just a 1-year rental, as we don't want to slow down our other guys, because he would just be an upgrade. He probably would be our number 1 receiver, slotting Diggs to number 2, and Thielen would be the number 3 guy, which would really mostly hurt Laquan Treadwell, as the team would be in three water sets most of the time anyways, so which would knock Laquan Treadwell down even more. He'd get really more of that bust label because he wouldn't have many opportunities to make the plays. Now, the reason why I put Eric Decker in the same bubble as Michael Floyd is they both have ties to Minnesota. Eric Decker went to school at the University of Minnesota, and Michael Floyd is, of course, from the capital of Minnesota, St. Paul. So both have ties there, and it makes sense for them to want to go home. But for Eric Decker, it's not really where he wants to go, as he's still with the Jets, and I don't think Spielman's going to put too much draft into him, because despite it at likely not being more than a 3rd round pick they would give up for him, because like I said, his trade value is down because of the injury last year. I do think that Spielman just wouldn't want to lose another draft pick, as we want to get as many picks as possible, losing a 1st last year for Bradford, even though I think that was a good trade regardless. So I think Decker would be the better option, but since we already pulled the trigger on Michael Floyd, I don't see it happening because we just don't have the as many wide receivers, or we have too many good wide receivers that we want on the team. So if the Vikings would have held off and not had Floyd, I think it'd be very likely the Vikings might try to trade for Decker if the price was right. But the way it is, I don't see us going for either one of these wide receivers. But Eric Decker would obviously be the better choice. But with the addition of Michael Floyd, did I really just say reddition? Do I even know how to speak English? I don't know. If you guys are gonna roast me as much as I can, that was awful. Just have your way in the comment section. I don't even care. Take me down. It's just not something I see the Vikings doing at all. Of course, I want your thoughts in the comment section down below. And we'll see you guys in the next Vikings video. See ya.